So, okay, got myself the laptop ready to go. Going to try to make my first YouTube video. See how this goes. Basically, didn't want to go too crazy with like the high-tech rigmarole and making everything seem too impersonal, I guess. You know, it just comes down to how much research I've done and how much time and effort I've put into figuring out why we're here, what's going on, how I think that we can better the system that we live in. And I think that you got to start with basically the beginning. And the problem is that nobody can fully know everything. So you gotta take what you can know and just know that there's people that want to spread the light and there's people that don't. The people that do not want to spread the light are the people in power. Government, CEOs, the strongest being like the CIA, MI6, Mossad, Russian special intelligence. They are the highest of the high as far as humanity goes. So basically the reason why is because they know of our creators. They know of how we got here. And it's cool. A lot of people were figuring out like Zachariah Sitchen and like the Anunnaki, and you know, people are no longer as scared to know this stuff. So like even the Vatican the other day like was like, oh, believing in ETs is not against religion, it's not against God. So I mean, it's getting to the point where the people in power even have to tell the truth even more and like disseminate a little bit of light to keep people still. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but basically the whole divine right to rule, the whole royalty, the whole presidents, I mean, these people have like, there's like 13 bloodlines basically, all people in power. They've been in power for thousands of years. They've been directing humanity since the beginning, basically. Basically, if you read the Bible, there's like 2 sentences talking about Adam and Eve and like the creation of man in the image of God. But then it even talks about the Elohim, and Elohim is plural. So like in the image of the gods. So I mean, even like when I was 16, I was in the back of my friend's car, and you know, you have a conscience, you have thoughts, but something else basically was like, look at your hand and put it up, and like look at it from the stance of 3 fingers. And like I looked at it and I started thinking, I was like, okay, that makes some sense. Like something about us is not 100% chimpanzee and not 100% Cro-Magnon man. We're a piece of something else. So from the time I was 16, something told me like, okay, just think a little further about why you're actually here. And like, that was hard. I mean, you know, I'm 16 years old, you know, I'm still trying to fit in, I'm trying to have friends, going to school, trying to, you know, get jobs, and it was hard for a while to know a lot of information already. And how to even talk to people changed, you know? I mean, like, now I know something that other people potentially don't even know their whole lives. So how do I keep going? How do I keep trying to find my next step, the next thing to do, you know? And once you get that type of information, you just like, you keep doing more research, you keep learning more stuff, you keep trying to dig, and You get negative information on some level that wakens you up, like from like the Alex Jones people, and like the fear awakening. There's good dissemination of information, and there's bad. And I guess in the end, like you kind of need to know everything, but like really, I mean, a lot of that stuff that they talk about is like really negative, really dark, and it tells you like what's really going on, but it doesn't really help. I mean, in the end, like we're trying to make this place better. We're not trying to make this place worse. And you get into like the whole Book of Revelations, and like one of the major religions on the earth basically looks forward to the end of the world. It's just how it is. That's what it is. That's what it says. That's what they're saying. They can't wait for Jesus to come back and like fuck Earth, fuck humanity. I'm saved. God loves me, so fuck everybody else. I mean, that's it. That's what I see. That's how I rate it. So a lot of the Christian fundamentalists are in power too, especially in America. They say, the Ben Franklin's, the Thomas Jeffersons, like incredibly genius people that created the idea for this place were theists. They're not Christians. And it got even darker than that, to the point where you got like Satan worshippers literally at the top of these pyramids. If you look at the back of the dollar bill, you see a lot of the Freemason symbology. The Eye of Horus on the back and top of the pyramid. Symbologies all throughout Hollywood, the Illuminati symbols, and like you see any of the rappers and musicians nowadays, and they like do the diamond eye shit. It's fake. It's fraudulent. I mean, see, like I don't want to get too into the darkness. Like that whole facet of life is very dark, and it gets to the point where some of these people are signing their contracts in their own blood and shit. Like, do I really want to know that? Does that help me further my life to know that? That's where I'm at right now. Like a lot of the information that I figured out is not helping me specifically better my life and better the world. And how do I change this? How do I become the change that I can believe in? And like I'm really for solar panels. I'm really for sustainable living. Trying to, like Terrence McKenna has like the archaic revival, and that's why people are getting like tattoos and like kind of going backwards to move forwards. I don't have any tattoos. I mean, that's not my point. I don't have any piercings, but I don't think that distorting your body necessarily gets you there. But like I can accept that we need to go back to like more of like a Native American, love the earth, work with the earth. I mean, only kill the deer that you need to eat. I mean, I can't even say like, oh, I'm a vegetarian, I don't eat any meat, because that would be a lie. I'm not gonna lie. What I mean? I think that is a goal. Like I'm moving towards that. I definitely do not eat meat the way I used to as a kid. I definitely eat way more veggies and fruits and like grains, and that's really it. Sometimes you have some chicken or whatever, and like I completely cut out like the Wendy's and the Burger Kings and that crap, like the sodas, and it's like I know I'm skipping around a lot. Like wow, I went from like Illuminati and like this and that and this and that already, and I understand that I might be a tough person to follow, but once you see the interconnectedness of everything, and like the way that you treat your body, the way that you treat others, the way that you disseminate knowledge, everything just is light or dark. It's not good and evil. It's not good versus evil. It's just two very distinctly different forces that work in union. And one of the best images that has ever been designed was the yin yang sign, and like the inner workings of light and dark, and how like friction has a negative connotation. But next time you see some black ice, tell me friction's a bad thing. Friction is how you move forward, how your car and your tires, friction on the ground, that's how you move forward. So it's not good versus evil. It's not as simple as Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. It's like the bad guys aren't over there and the good guys are over here. It's like we're all full of positive, negative. We're all full of light and dark. And I try to be a spiritual warrior of the light. I try to think that humans can handle this information and not just fall apart. I see that religion as like the control mechanism that it was. It was needed for a long time. Like, I'm starting to see like the atheism creeping in now that people are seeing through all this stuff, like the government, and seeing through the religions, and seeing through all these things. Atheism and nihilism, and like there's no meaning, there's no reason for any of this. It's like creeping in, and that's a negative. It's not good. That's not progress. That's not moving us forward. Sorry, it's just what it is. Like source. It's abundantly clear that something extraordinarily intelligent designed this place. I know about that guy Richard Dawkins, and like I know that seeing a clock in the desert is not proof of a creator. I get that. So like when you see everything revolving around the North Star, it's not proof of a designer. I get that. It's not exactly proof that there is something intelligent. But if you look at the numbers on the probability of entropy, and as a system moves through time, it becomes more disordered. So like a printer works less in time. A car needs constant repair over time. So when they say like the universe is a billion years old and humanity's only been here for 400,000 years, just think about that. Just think about the probability of life, intelligent, self-realizing, self-aware life coming up through the earth after X amount of time. The probability is like, I don't know, I saw the number one time. It's further than, I don't know if you guys have played the recent March Madness $1 billion bracket thing, and like if you've seen that, like the odds of winning that, it was like, here's a person, here's like the Empire State Building, and like here is the odds of winning that. So I actually went back and I checked the odds of having human life and just life in general versus winning the bracket. It's worse. It's worse. So what does that mean? Life's not an accident. We're not here on some accident. The universe didn't exist so that basically all I'm saying is that just because we need to see through the distortion and the half-truths of things like the Bible and like religions, and I want humans to become more of the power and more of the future consolidation of what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it in the future. does not mean that we shouldn't be God-centered ourselves. And there's the issue. What is God? What is that? What does that mean? And basically, it's an individual thing. And when people get together and worship together, it's a powerful thing. I mean, when people meditate, like when Buddhist monks meditate together, it's more powerful than just when one person meditates. It's just how it is. So we definitely have seen more energy, more positive change culminate when humans have positive thinking and positive intention together. So this is going to be a change, and it's going to be either positive or negative, depending. I mean, as like the governments start to give the power back to people, and like the lies of government gets more disseminated down to the individual person, and like the lies of the religious people and like the Vatican disseminated to the people. This could be bad. This could be really bad. This could be like violent. This could be trying to hurt the people that have held us down. But there's part of me that is a little bit of capable of seeing it from an elitist point of view. And there was a time when the future and how we were going to move and like what to do next needed to be in lesser hands. And I actually do believe that. I really do believe that we needed to get here together from that standpoint. Now I believe that we need to stop that and have more of like a holistic view and a holistic way of moving through this next phase. If you listen to the Michio Kaku, theoretical physicist, he makes the point of the transition between civilization and it's, for me to challenge him at all is maybe disrespectful, but he says it's going from 0 to 1, and actually it's going from 1 to 2 that's the hardest. I mean, as soon as a civilization take flight, that is 1. So that's splitting hairs. But either way, going from 1 to 2, and not burning fossil fuels, having free energy, not having profit be the only motivator. This next phase has actually destroyed civilization completely before. This transition that humanity has made it to, this transition has failed more times than it's been successful. So it's a huge time. And if you talk to some of like the I don't know, I hate that new age term, but like people that are pretty spiritually advanced, they talk about why is there 7 billion people here? Why does it seem like almost every essence of almost every world teacher, and why does it seem like everybody's here right now? And it's because this is like, we got front row tickets, man, to like the most important time in a species transition. Who wouldn't want to be down here? I mean, unless you're already incarnate into a higher being, and you're already doing stuff that's on that next level, and this is it, man. I mean, a lot of us actually did come down. If that makes any sense, I mean, we talk about angels and demons and the supernatural, and I'm not saying that it's not real. I told you I believe in a higher intelligence all the way up to the God part, but I'm not God, but we are trying to get closer to that. That's what the spiral DNA is, the ascension is. Right now we're at level 3, the third dimension, the third level of ascension. And that's why, they talk about like the sixth sense and like intuition and it's all part of it. It's all part of that ascension process. And all I'm saying is that, like, the reason why there's 7 billion people right here, right now, is because some people that have already made it to the next level and do not have to continue to incarnate in the third level have come actually back down to try to see if we can get to this next phase, to this next civilization too. And for some reason, I think like the amount of doubt and the amount of like almost like wanting to see us fail is the reason why I really believe that we're going to make it. And I know that's so counter to that's so strange. Like, why would that be a good thing? I just feel like because mankind is actually so adaptable and so capable of dealing with negative things that happen. Like, I mean, for instance, like the Katrina, I mean, you saw basically that the government doesn't care about people. I mean, that's what that was. An incredibly powerful storm hits the American soil and hurts tons of people, a beautiful city, a very, energetic and spiritual city, and the government proved that they just don't give a shit about people and only care about power and only care about, their thinking and what they're doing and what they want to do next. And so, like, when they were put to the test, they failed miserably. It just is what it is. And I was surprised that Americans didn't get more riled up about that. I mean, that could have happened to anyone. Could have happened anywhere. It just happened to hit, Louisiana, So what? It didn't happen to me. That was a telltale sign of the fact that these people really are too wrapped up in what they're thinking, too wrapped up in what they care about, too wrapped up in wars and hurting other people and trying to get other countries to do what we want and, get resources. And, it was just an epic fail. That's what it was. It was an epic failure of government. And I just, like I said, I'm a spiritual warrior of the light. I just want to disseminate this type of information to the people to get them to understand how important it is that humans just see each other as what we are, And like, I think that there's so much division of mind, so much, like, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm from India, I'm from America. It's all divisions of the mind. It's all illusionary differences. In the end, if you're a human being, if you are a carbon-based life form, you need water, food, shelter, love. I mean, anything other than that is just fake. It's just fraudulent. It's just trying to make differences and divisions, and it's just trying to keep us fighting each other while the real elites continue to control world events. And it's time for a change. It's just like so many of us are waking up, so many of us are seeing through what's going on, and it's like, on some level, who am I to say, my opinion matters more and my voice should be heard? And on the other, it's like, why aren't more people feeling the way I am? Why are more people not aware of what's going on and why it's going on and what the goals are for mankind. So it's tricky, you know. I mean, we live in a monetary system in which I have to like fight and sell and work for somebody else and make them more money than I'm making just to survive, just to eat. You know, I mean, once you, I mean, I couldn't believe the central banks just said, well, we just make this money out of thin air and we give it to some people. That is what they said. They finally admitted to it. And I'm far enough along to realize that actually central banking was a good thing on some levels. It actually allowed for less divisions and less war, believe it or not. Once you had, lots of times people fight over money and not having the ability to get the resources that they need. So actually the Rothschilds did a good thing when they had Rothschild bankers in all the countries and were able to send Germany's funds to Rothschild banks in Italy when Italy was struggling. Central banking actually was a good thing for a while. But now what's happening is all this money is being used to keep the higher ups of that party higher. So like the royalty and like the Vatican needed bankers so that they could charge compound interest. Usury, it's a sin, it's in the book. It is a negative, it's a bad thing, it keeps people down, keeps people falling off the wagon. You know, stuff happens. For instance, they gave me a student loan, right? And at the time it was going to be a good thing because I was going to learn computer science and I was going to further my life both intellectually and both learning more about the computer and being more able to help a company develop software, develop algorithms for payroll, and you know, just learning computer science would have been a very good thing for me. So I decided to take out loans to further that decision. Here's the problem with compound interest. My brother dies. So now I'm stuck with an incredibly difficult subject matter. Just going back to school. Incredible amount of grief, frustration, anger, you know, and a certain amount of time that had transpired. Basically, the first semester of going back to school was the spring semester. So now you have the 3-month summer, and my brother dies right in the middle of summer. So either way, so now I come back and I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle all the grief. I couldn't handle relearning the information from the first semester and being able to handle 4 classes. So I mean, even when I tried to drop a couple classes and I told the teachers, you know, how badly I was struggling and could you just work with me a little bit until I just get my bearings back, and you know, they were just giving me bad grades and like just not working with me at all. I mean, it's just like they were no clue about how traumatic it is to lose your only fucking brother. Sorry, I'm trying not to curse very, very much right now. I'm taking this serious, you know. I want to disseminate this information and I want this to be a powerful thing. So I apologize for cursing. I'm really working on it. Yeah, so either way, I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't handle everything that was going on and you know, trying to make money and you know, pay for living and living with other people and the stresses of just life and work and schooling and my own grief. I just couldn't handle it. So now I have this interest-bearing loan, and you know, there'll be some people that argue, oh well, student loan interest rates are better than other loans, and it's like, yeah, okay, thanks. That's not the point. The point is, now I took out a loan for a reason, was to learn enough to get a higher paying job. I mean, that was the decision that I had made, but stuff happens. So now I'm stuck at the ceiling that I'm at as far as earnings potential, while now having debt that would have been a good idea, that would have been a good decision, now is a freaking horrible decision, and it's bearing interest. So that's why usury is a sin, because life happens, because God understood that stuff happens, and to charge people interest and money on top of money on top of money, for one loan is unfair. It's a sin. Sin is serious. It is what it is. I mean, I understand that. We're seeing through some of the lies and some of the deceits of religions, but in the end, the Bible really is a moral and a decent way of having checks and balances on this planet. And you can't throw the what's it called? It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, the Bible is not perfect. It's not the be all end all of every single thing that we need as far as civilization goes, but there are some very good things in it. It's just the bottom line. And so now we're at that point where there's good things about central banking and there's bad things about central banking, and that's the point now, that the bankers have created a system in which they make out. And so now you got the Vatican, you got royalty, and now you have the bankers. And so these people are all trying to stay in power and trying to keep their thing going, and that's fine, because honestly for a while it was making things better for everybody. And now the issue is business. So the businesses that grew out of this new central banking and compound interest system are corporations. So now I'm not going to go crazy railing against corporations, because now we're at the same thing. Corporations have done some good things. Corporations have done some bad things. The problem is profit. When it's profit at all costs, nothing else matters. And so when you have a publicly held company, it just proves that it does not even care about anything or anyone. Here's how I'll explain it. A publicly held company puts shares on the stock market. So now those shares are available for purchase by shareholders. And this was supposed to be a way to actually have people that labor able to buy ownership of companies, and as companies make money, the share price goes up, and now even the laborers have a way of making money make money. So in essence, it was supposed to be a good thing. The stock market was supposed to be a ladder in which more people could raise themselves up. What happens is 56% of the entire stock market is owned by, I think it's 10% of the population. And I mean, we're talking huge sums of money, huge controlling interest, huge power in the hands of a few. And for instance, I can give you an explanation of a company that I work for called Network Alternatives. Network Alternatives was run by Gary Pica. Gary Pica forms Network Alternatives with Howard Baroshinoy. So now it's two people with a good idea, IT, managed services. Such a good idea that actually the next company, Mindshift Technologies, adapts what they are doing based off of these guys' idea. Everybody at that point had help desk support, server monitoring, and somebody that would go in and actually do the networks and do the actual physical IT support. But what they figured out, Network Alternatives, is a thing called technical consulting. That was what Mindshift ended up realizing was a great investment. Technical consulting was basically the planning and IT strategy of, as a company grows, what's the best way of implementing new servers, what's the best way of implementing new computers, what's the best way of having additional support. So that was a very higher end level thinking, to have a person paid for just strategic thinking and further thinking of all the companies under the umbrella of network alternatives. So that was a really good idea, and it takes some of the profit, and it takes some of the takes some of the earnings away from Gary Pica. It takes some of the earnings away from Howard, and so that was pretty good thinking on their part, obviously. The reason why I'm bringing all this up is because now you have the major guy, the sales guy, is like the engine behind keeping this thing alive, keeping all of these help desk employees having a job and having something to do, and keeping the John Lamelses of the world, the person that runs the help desk support, and keeping the technical consultants having a job. I mean, eventually they realized that the technical consultants also needed to sell some higher end stuff to the higher end, to have a job as well. But what I'm saying is, either way, the sales guy is very important. I mean, basically, if somebody doesn't sell, then nobody has a job. So basically, then after a certain amount of time, Network Alternatives did so well and made such a dent into the IT market that Mindshift Technologies decides to buy them out. And so this is what happens. Mindshift comes in, offers this guy who's ready to do something else, called Gary Pica, the owner, X amount of money, X amount of resources to buy their company. So, in the end, Gary Pica sells his people out. That's what it is. He sold his people out. The Tim Fitzpatrick, the sales guy, the John Lamelses, the runner of the help desk support guys, the technical consultants. He sells them out. That's what it is to Mindshift Technologies. Mindshift Technologies comes in, buys an incredible asset and incredible people, and forces them to sign non-competes. So now these people are basically locked into their job for the next 3 years because they can't do anything else unless they completely do a whole new type of industry. Like how's an IT guy gonna go serve at a restaurant? Or obviously these things are possible, but my point is, when you have like a monster coming in and forcing you to sign a 3-year non-compete, so that means what your passion is, you cannot do for 3 years unless you do it for us. It's fucking nuts. And so now you have all these people that get the short end of the stick, that are the engine that gave Gary Pica the asset in which he could sell. And it's just people undervaluing themselves, when instead of signing those non-competes, they should have just allowed Gary Pica to try to sell the company and walk out. Start their own goddamn company. They had all the pieces. John Lamelza, they had Tim, a great salesman. They had Howard, the other part of the brains behind Gary Pica's idea of network alternatives. They have the technical consultants that Mindshift was interested in the first place that they developed. I mean, they have all this stuff, and all the asset that is that business is the people, is the workers, and only one person really gets any benefit: the original guy that had the idea. And it's just not a fair system. Just because you work for somebody else and you work to build somebody else's idea doesn't mean you should get screwed once he's ready to sell. It's just, that's what this system is. It's just a bunch of selling each other out, trying to get ahead. And it's just it's frustrating to know that the people are the power, we are the engine, we are the asset, but then we allow other people to sell us out to a bigger company, and then, here's the illusion, right? Mindshift's CEO says that, oh, okay, here's the deal. In 3 years, we are going to be able to take Mindshift public because of the asset and the revenue and the EBITDA of having Network Alternatives part of the other two IT companies. We're going to be able to go public, and then those pieces of paper that you signed are also 50 shares of the theoretical company that other people are going to buy shares of. Now, I know that was maybe a little bit confusing for people that don't know the stock market, don't know what bringing a company public is. But, when they sign the non-competes, saying, I will not compete against Mindshift for 3 years, in exchange, they do get something. They get the theoretical idea of this piece of paper being worth 50 shares. And like a Melza will get more than 50, and like a Tim Fitzpatrick, the sales guy, is going to get more than 50. But like the bottom line help desk guys and like the inside sales guys, which was me. I was the lead generator for Tim. So we get 50, and obviously everybody else that was a little higher than us got more theoretical shares. Okay, but here's the thing. In the end, that CEO sold us out to Best Buy. So, in the end, those shares are converted to X amount of shares of Best Buy, yes. So, in the end, people are going to be like, oh, well, shouldn't everything be hunky-dory and you're happy now because you did get some shares? And it's like, no, here's why. If those people walked out of that raw deal that Gary Pica sold to Mindshift, they now would have been one step higher. And they would have been now the new Gary Pica to have the asset of which to sell to Mindshift potentially, instead of, taking that raw deal in the first place and being forced to stay there for 3 years. And it's just like the 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe like 50% of the people that signed that original deal of Gary Pica's made it to that point of which they were bought out by Best Buy to have that be more worth their while. So that means 50% of the people just get kind of screwed, get left out. And when they could have just reformulated the fact that, wait a minute, we could be the next network alternative instead of being Mindshift. And that's my point. It's just like the way that this system is set up, the stock market with ownership, with central banking and government expenditures and all this stuff. Money just goes up, and stays up. And then they'll call it trickle down economics, and it's so obvious and so blatant that it just doesn't trickle down. You got so many of these single mothers that basically, if they lose their paycheck, it's game over. Game over. Homelessness potentially, having to move back to mom's, kids not eating potentially for, for 2 weeks until they figure out what's going on. And this is in the best country, the best system, is we have not only 40% already below the poverty line, which is like $10,000 per person. So like a family of 4, if the top earner doesn't make $40,000, you're not really surviving that well. That's where it is. That's the cost of living at this point. Between every tank of gas being $60, between rent, mortgage, and property taxes. If you have a mortgage, sure, don't get me wrong, building equity in a mortgage is a good thing, but now we don't even have the property rights because you don't pay those property taxes. You really don't own that property, do you? And I don't want to get too negative. Sorry, I'm getting too negative again. This is about positive change. This is about potentially changing this system for the better. Okay, so not sure. I name dropped Zachariah Sitchen so far in the beginnings of man. Now, I dropped the Rothschilds and central banking. I don't like to name drop too much, but the next name drop is Karen Hudes, and she is incredible. She was a banking lawyer in which she figured out all the resources of all the banking institutions, and I'm pretty sure she didn't even count oil and natural gas and like all the resources. I'm pretty sure she just calculated the assets of the banking institutions and what these people are hiding. And from what she gathered, basically people should start at, I believe it's $300,000 just from birth. Just from being alive, that individual should have $300,000 with which to, start the music business that they wanted, to write the book that they wanted, to start the band that they wanted, to start the IT business that they wanted, to go to school and learn what they want, and then that's Karen, and she is a spiritual warrior of the light. Then the next guy is Jacques Fresco, the Venus Project guy. And when you do the math of his resource-based economy and Karen's, the banking controlling industry, and you add them up, we're talking over $650,000 to start your life instead of starting at zero. And sure, this paradigm is going to change, a lot. It just is. But here's why this is going to be good in the long term. I wish I had the name of this guy to tell you further research, but basically he took the tools with which Intel uses to create their processors over to a little African village, and this 12-year-old girl was able to create with no knowledge, no prior education, just having the tools with which to create. She was able to create a processor in which Intel only created 10 years ago. This is a 12-year-old girl with no experience, no knowledge, no education. That is the power of a human being. That is why we need to value human beings more. That is why the system in which we have got us to this point in which we can get to the next level, but we have to together. We have to by valuing mankind more. So that's basically, that's my spiel, man. That's what it is. At 48 minutes and some odd seconds, I think that I'm gonna stop there. Obviously, I could just go on for hours, really. I mean, with all the research that I've done and talking more about extraterrestrials and talking more about banking institutions, but I feel as though that was concise enough to take in the goals and why the goals matter and why the goals will better us. Thanks for your time. Charles Schiavo, Game.